Hello, beautiful people. My name's Kristen. Thank you for stopping by to hear some reviews and thoughts on books that I read in the month of January. I finished up the month rather strong, really, for the end of the month. I read a lot of random things that I'd love to share with you. I did get to the little, very short novella by Brandon Sanderson that he sent out to his Surprise Box Club subscription, but it is available to purchase for anybody who's interested, and I think it's free as an ebook, if I'm not mistaken. You can check that out on his website. I'll try to leave a link below, but this is called Long Chills and Case Doe, and it is a story that he wrote as in college as like a response to a paper that he was supposed to write, and it wasn't even like an English creative story. He just made it into such. And it's one of these stories that is the kind of Chicago detective gangster style where he's like, that's right, we've got to bank it in the chill box, and I will catch you on the other side, and all these like little flip sayings perpetually spilling out of his mouth. And it's kind of like that dramatic dun dun dun, they walked in the room and everything stopped kind of narrative. And it's really just a silly little case where he is trying to be hired by a woman who's trying to clear herself, but really she's got a lot of skeletons in the closet, and it's just a lot of drama and cleverness. It's very different than what he normally writes. It's short, it's cute, it's clever, it's a free ebook. I don't know that it really represents him because it was written so long ago in a not as developed style, so I don't think it's a fair assessment of who he is as an author. But if you already are reading him, it's worth picking up and adding to the mix. I also read the next in my manga series, Mrs. Kabashi's Dragon Maid. This is the only Japanese manga that I read because my son got me interested and into it, because they are very passionate about anime and all things Japanese art. I do really appreciate the drawings. Let me see if I can flip through and find a couple of the really amazing ones. Okay, so basically, a dragon comes and is rescued by a human girl, and then the dragon, who is also in the form of a human girl with a dragon tail, becomes her servant for saving said dragon's life. So here is like the dragon, and then here is the dragon maid. And so in this particular book, she is, sorry, it's always backwards. So in this particular book, she's going on adventures to try to actually hold an outside job and to play in the park, but then she gets into a skirmish with other ruffian people, teen boys hanging out there. Basically she looks like a little girl, and then she kicks booty because she's really a dragon. I mean, it's funny. It's very, very much a comic miscommunication of cultures, dragon versus the world that we live in kind of thing. I read Attica Locke's Bluebird. This is the story set in East Texas in the, I think it's around the year 2016 that these events take place. A modern day Texas Ranger who is Black is dealing with racial tensions and what appears to possibly be a racially motivated crime. And so he is trying to discern a couple murders that happened, one of a Black man and one of a white woman, and try to see if they are connected, what's going on, and kind of quiet things down and bring some justice and peace to a really difficult situation. It was fun reading about something that's really just a couple hours away from me. The terrain, the weather, all those things were very familiar, and that was fun. It was very fascinating because it does a lot of kind of small town history and backdrops about what's going on, and actually that was accurate in what I've discovered also about Texas history, but the fact that they're still discussing it so in depth in 2016 says something to me. I read another classic. It doesn't have a beautiful, well, it does have a beautiful cover, but a nondescript kind of generic antique cover of The Man in the Iron Mask by Alexander Dumas. So this is the conclusion of the Three Musketeers series, and it was so good. It was really brilliant, y'all. I don't want to give spoilers, of course, but that swashbuckling, if you like or are looking for a classic that has plot, like tons and tons of plot. I mean, some character development, but really plot. You are in perpetual chase scenes, whether that's on foot, whether that's on horseback, a lot of horseback, carriages drawn by horseback, ships shooting cannons at each other, like battles where they're locked into castles and forts and trying to escape in secret passages, and kings that are having royal drama and people infiltrating the castles and secret passages, and just over and over it, always something. I mean, sometimes I would get done reading and I would feel, whew, I'm exhausted from reading that because I feel like I was so into it. So if you're looking for high adventure, you can't start here because this is the end. You have to start with Three Musketeers, but Three Musketeers is that way. So loved it, totally loved it. I thought it was 5 stars all the way around. And it seemed to be a series kind of concluding of the month, because I read Louise Penny's The Cruelest Month. This is the 3rd in the Inspector Gamache Three Pines murder mystery, and this one's really kind of a little, not that murder's fun, but there's a party with like a seance to try to appease the dead to get rid of the hauntings of the house where some previous murders and bad mojo went down, and someone dies of fright. And so then they start uncovering people's secrets, and was this really murder, and all these kind of, you know, back and forth kind of funsy ways. And there's all the same characters. In fact, there's a couple characters that I had to go back and reference and figure out who the heck they were, because they'd already been introduced in previous books and we were supposed to already know them. So it had been too long. So I probably shouldn't wait so long in between these books. I think there's like 19 of them now, y'all. 19. This is 3. So I do think they should be read in order. Still Life is the first one. If you haven't read any of them yet, you can pick that one up and see if this little world reads a lot like Agatha Christie. Very Hercule Poirot is very, to me, similar to Inspector Gamache. And then finally, just because I had an extra day and a half at the end and I didn't want to commit to something big, I found this copy, Under Texas Skies. This is a textbook for 1st and 2nd graders from 1964 about Texas history. And so it has like it has an introduction, questions for the class at the end, vocabulary words for them to read. And what I was curious about is, how are they teaching history, right? And this would have predominantly even potentially been a textbook that I might have used myself, being a child of the 70s. And so I wanted to know, how are they portraying the gritty, raw parts of Texas history? And are they allowing room for young people to know facts and make their own opinions? So again, this one's set for 1st and 2nd grade. So they did talk openly about, there were people that did the cotton picking, for instance, and then they went and had machines. So they talked about the transition of people picking the cotton to the machines, but they did not talk about who those people were, or, you know, how they were treated or anything like that. However, I wanted to go ahead, I left my bookmark in here because I thought this one introduction to a section really summed out the nature of it, and it was fascinating to me, and you might be interested too. Just that I feel really good and positive about this kind of education and wording, and wondered how you thought. This is entitled The Filibusters in Texas. The meaning of the word filibuster is an interesting one. An adventurer, perhaps an intruder, or one who enters a country without permission is a filibuster. Filibusters played a part in the settling of Texas. Texas belonged to Spain until 1821 when it was lost to Mexico. Adventurers from the United States had their eyes on Texas when they saw a chance to trade with the Spanish in Mexico, capture wild horses, or maybe just to engage in an exciting adventure. The persons who are the characters in the stories of this section are filibusters. They came to Texas without permission. Some of them brought settlers. The Spanish and Mexican governments wanted to develop Texas, but were never quite sure whether they should encourage filibusters or if they should run them out. As you read the stories, try to decide whether these adventurers were helpful or harmful. And this particular textbook is written with a lot of questions. They started out with like the Native Americans and talking about their lifestyle. Who and what do we know about the people who lived there when we first came upon them? And it talks about their games, and it asks the student who's reading this, would you like to play this game? Is this similar to games that you play? Like, it did a really beautiful job, I thought, of every time it would tell a story, even about a really unsavory character. And I'm laughing at some of them because I know some history about some of these characters, that they were not necessarily easy to get along with people or always very nice people. But in the book, they'd be like, how would you feel? Or what do you think? Or what do you wonder about? And to me, that is the heart of education. I would love for us just to put out these facts, and they can be age appropriate, right? It may be, a little much to go into certain details with a first grader versus a third grader versus a fifth grader. And then say, these are the facts. What do you think? How would you feel? Do you think these same things? Do you play these same games? Do you have these same dreams and hopes? What do you think about this time in history? What are your opinions? Oh, that's good. So anyway, and I think this is such a cute little vintage copy, so I'm gonna so lovingly keep this on my shelf and just be very, very happy with it, and happy that I spent a day and a half getting a chance to look that over. So those are the books I finished in January. Have you read any of these? What did you think? Or are you interested in reading any of them now? Or what are you going to be picking up in February? Or it is February, so what are you reading? Leave me a comment below. As always, thank you so much for stopping by. Like and subscribe, and I will see you again soon.